faulty.
For the American market, the manufacturers.
Expect the unexpected. Tonight at 9 on ITV.
Formula One comes to Europe for the first time this season, live and exclusive to LWT, the San Marino Grand Prix qualifying session.
So, McLaren are back here in Brazil. Victory for Mika Häkkinen, victory for McLaren. They're on their way.
It's really strange. Anything can happen. Like we have seen in the last Grand Prix what happened, you know. Everything is possible in Formula One.
Qualifying might still be the same situation that we're behind, but then race, we'll have to see how strong we are. Brazil looked good, and I hope we look better here.
We saw in Melbourne, if the car was finishing, then I think it's going to be first or second, so that's a good situation to be in.
Radio Centrale.
Oggi pole position.
Su Radio Zero, domenica speciale.
Gran Premio di San Marino di Formula 1. Stop! Tempo scaduto.
Formula One's European Tour starts this weekend in northern Italy. We're gearing up for the qualifying session of the San Marino Grand Prix. Hello there. Welcome to Imola. Well, it's been a fragmented start to the season with that 5-week gap between curtain up in Melbourne and the second race in Sao Paulo. Then another 3-week wait for round 3. But normal service is resumed from here on in with a Grand Prix just about every fortnight here on ITV. Well, to refresh your memories of exactly what's happened so far, here's Louise Goodman.
There was drama right from the off at the Australian Grand Prix. First, the stewards caught fire on the grid, and then Michael Schumacher suffered a repeat of his Japanese fiasco when his car stalled at the restart, putting him right to the back of the field.
Action in Australia, and Mika Häkkinen gets away well, so does Coulthard.
It was business as usual when the race finally got underway, with McLaren leading into the first corner. Eddie Irvine tucked his Ferrari in behind, but Hill's Grand Prix ended after just 3 corners. McLaren looked to have the race under control, but then the cracks began to appear.
And out of the race goes Coulthard.
Jacques Villeneuve was in trouble too when his rear wing fell off. The safety car came out, but as the race restarted, Häkkinen was slow away.
And what's happening? They're waiting for a green flag, I think, because they're hovering. And Irvine takes the lead. No, Häkkinen's got a problem. Häkkinen's got a problem, look so! What amazing!
McLaren were obviously quick, but reliability was their Achilles heel in Melbourne. Michael Schumacher was unable to benefit from their retirement. First a puncture and then a missed pit stop halted his charge back through the field, but Ferrari was still the winners. Eddie Irvine took top honours to record his first Grand Prix victory. And so to Brazil for round 2.
Going Brazil! And Coulthard has scored! Coulthard has scored! Barrichello gets into second place. Mika Häkkinen sprints away.
3 laps later, Coulthard was back on track, but just as his race started, it looked like Häkkinen's was over. Thankfully, it was a temporary glitch, unlike Coulthard's terminal failure. Rubens Barrichello took up the lead. He'd opted for 2 stops, but Häkkinen's one-stop strategy was better.
I think he has done enough. Let's have a look. Yes, he is. There's Schumacher, there's Schumacher.
Schumacher was chasing hard in second, but Barrichello's strategy had seen him slip down the field, and then his engine let go. So Mika Häkkinen was back in business, scoring his first win of the season.
Over the line goes the Finn. Victory for Häkkinen, victory for McLaren.
That familiar winning feeling for McLaren, but to the delight of the massive Ferrari fan club here, Irvine's on top of the drivers' standings, ahead of world champion Häkkinen and the impressive Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And Ferrari have jumped clear of McLaren and Jordan in the Constructors' Championship, this despite Damon Hill's problems. This is the best start to a season in Jordan's history. Okay then, here we are. It is an absolutely beautiful May day. Blue sky, temperature touching 20 degrees now. It really is a nice place to be this weekend. Tony Charney will be my pal throughout the next couple of days. Hi, Tony.
How are you?
A lot of focus on the two British drivers, particularly Damon.
He's had a hard time in the first two races and hasn't got very far at all. He's reading quotes, they're saying the ramp is against him, but he's training very hard, he's very, very fit. He said, I'm going to try as hard as I possibly can this year. But we mustn't forget Heinz-Harald Frentzen has been giving him a hard time. He's the bloke that nicked his job, and he's stealing his limelight as well at the moment.
One or two people out there have been suggesting he should get the old shave.
Oh, you mean the old goatee, the old grey goatee? I did tell him it was grey this morning when I discovered him putting some graffiti on Ralph Schumacher's car park sign over the other side. But yeah, some people reckon it's bad luck. He should go back to be nice, clean, smoothie.
And David Coulthard, we're watching him closely too.
He loves this circuit. He's really good over the curbs. He loves straight lining it. He's got the car really well set up, but he needs to strike a big blow, doesn't he, at this particular race for the rest of the season. Otherwise, he's going to fall behind the mighty Mika and have to take second place.
Absolutely. This really is a very big weekend for David Coulthard. He ran the show here last year and won very impressively indeed, but he comes here now still searching for his first point. What a contrast to Heinz-Harald Frentzen. The German has hit the ground running at Jordan, second in Australia, and third in Brazil. Let's join Louise Goodman once again.
You personally seem to be on a bit of a roll. It's all going your way at the moment. Does it feel that way to you?
Oh, well, point of view, yes. The results are there and everything looks good. I mean, the prospect is very nice. I mean, we did good points right from the beginning of the season. We had a bit of luck that McLaren wasn't up there reliable enough, but we we nicked the points, and we need them for the whole year, because our realistic aim is being third in the Constructor Championship with the team, and we're looking good for that reason.
I was speaking to Mike Gascoigne earlier on, and he was saying that he thinks at this race, and Monaco in particular, you're going to be very, very strong. How do you think your chances are here in Imola?
We have to see. I mean, I think the point that I won the race here in '97 doesn't mean that I'm particularly faster here on this track. Otherwise, it would mean that in all other tracks I haven't won before, I would be slower. I think that if we get everything together here, we've got to have a good chance to finish on the podium as well, and as well as scoring points, because our car is reliable, and that is our main advantage right now.
While Frentzen's reliability is an advantage, for David Coulthard it's a disadvantage. Zero reliability has scuppered his plans to score any points.
Me going, isn't going to change what happened in the first two races. I know that I've been quick, I've been on the pace in qualifying, I've been on the pace in the race. I feel that I'm better, learnt a lot from last year. And I need the car to finish the race for me to show what I can do. And I don't doubt myself, so the frustration's not there. And the championship, that is the goal, is to be the world champion, is to be the best. But you can't, you can't rewrite the first two races. They've just happened. They go down to one of those things. And my focus and my attention is on the next few races and on the way I'm driving and the way I work with the team and trying to do the best job.
So if you bring all of that to this weekend and a track that's been good for you in the past, does that bode well?
Yeah, it's nice to come somewhere where you've had success in the past. It doesn't guarantee success this year, and I haven't really been thinking too much about what happened last year, but we had a good test in Jerez and also a good shakedown at Silverstone. Still a couple of little niggles in reliability, but certainly much better. So I wouldn't expect, if we have an advantage here, I wouldn't expect it very much, but you only need half a tenth to be on the pole, and if you're in the front, then you have control of the race. And my focus is to be leading into the first corner.
David Coulthard quickest in the second practice session today, but Heinz-Harald Frentzen, he really is putting the squeeze on Damon, isn't he?
He is. It's interesting. We talked about Heinz-Harald Frentzen landing with the wheels turning. Well, that was exactly Hill's quote, and Damon has been quite shocked by how quickly he's adapted to the team. I think it's basically because he's receiving a lot of tender, loving care, which he didn't get at Williams at all. I mean, they were quite brutal with him, to be frank.
Eddie Irvine has been outpacing Michael Schumacher. Pretty remarkable then.
He's enjoying a great honeymoon period. He's at the top of the pile. He's getting quite vocal as well. He's saying, look, you know, I stayed at Ferrari this year to be able to fight McLaren. I'm not doing that at the moment. But he made a very important point as well. Everyone's talking about the McLaren being the fastest, but they are chasing us. We're leading the constructors and we're leading the drivers, and I fully intend to come away from here leading the Drivers' Championship.
Absolutely. So then it's Ferrari who are leading the pack on the back of Eddie Irvine's fine victory around Albert Park in Melbourne, and Michael Schumacher's second place in Brazil. There's still, as Tony's been saying, quite a speed gap to make up between Ferrari and McLaren, and there's a real contrast as well between Ferrari's performance in qualifying and the way the car's been going in the races. More now from James Allen.
This is a vintage Michael Schumacher lap. He's wringing speed out of that car that really isn't there.
For the past 3 seasons, Ferrari have found themselves starting the year with a slower car than their main rivals, and each time they've had to play catch-up. But it's in qualifying that they've really struggled. Williams out-qualified them 13 times in 1997, and last year McLaren did the same. This year it's already 2-0 to the Silver Arrows. This is particularly depressing for Ferrari, given that they ended last season with 3 pole positions. So why have they gone backwards?
The starting position, I mean, is vital for the race. So we were disappointed, but they are getting more out of their package in qualifying. So I mean, it's up to us to make our car quicker, as I said, in qualifying.
We made quite a huge program before Imola. We developed, and now we have to see whether we developed enough or we're still looking behind. To be honest, qualifying might still be the same situation.
But qualifying isn't the whole story. When the cars are filled with fuel for the race, they lose a lot less time than their rivals. Consider this. In 1997, Williams were an average of 2.4 seconds a lap slower in the race than they had been in qualifying. Ferrari were just 1.8 seconds slower. Last year, McLaren raced at 2.9 seconds a lap off their qualifying pace. Ferrari were just 2.4 seconds off. So why is it that the Ferrari is a better race car than a qualifier?
You can develop a car specifically for qualifying. I mean, it means to make 1, 2 or 3 very, very quick laps with a very light car. For the race, you have to achieve over 300 kilometers over roughly 1 hour 30, 1 hour 45, depending of the circuit. So it's a different game.
Most of the time, I mean, it's not really a different setup you're working with, but you may have a qualifying engine, you have a bit of extra RPM and things like that, which makes it different, looking bigger than it is. Anyway, if you imagine a certain amount of fuel, easy is a second. Pole position is important to one extent, but then race strategy actually has a bigger percentage.
The team has a new front wing here, which they believe will help them today in qualifying. They're trying hard. They've done 71 days and over 11,000 kilometres so far this year in the new car, the equivalent of driving from London to Singapore. Ferrari's catch-up has failed for the past 2 seasons. Will history repeat in 1999?
Well, we're less than an hour's drive here from Ferrari's headquarters at Maranello. They're long overdue a win at Imola. Haven't won here since Patrick Tambay 16 years ago. Now then, congratulations are very much in order for our own Martin Brundle. Martin named Sports Pundit of the Year by the Royal Television Society. Well done, Martin. He actually isn't with us this weekend. He's pre-qualifying at Le Mans, but our man Murray Walker has found an ideal replacement.
Well, you can't do better than a world champion, especially when it's Jody Scheckter. But Jody, you were the last world champion for Ferrari. That was 1979, 20 years ago. What have you been doing since? We've missed you.
Well, I went to America and started a company there, and that was 12 years gone when I looked around, and now I'm back helping my boys.
Were you keeping in touch with motor racing?
Well, I was watching on television, but that's all.
Now, I know that you've been to Maranello, to Ferrari. How do you read their situation nowadays?
Well, I think they're confident they've got some things and they've found some advantages, but I think they still feel that McLaren's is out of their reach. but we've got to see.
They're confident. Are you confident?
Well, no, I think they've got a tough job. I mean, McLaren's has got everything together and looking fantastic, and it's going to be hard for Ferrari to beat them.
Yeah, they're leading the World Championship, though, and it's conventional wisdom that Michael Schumacher's the best driver in the world.
Yeah, but you know, last year I think they did fantastically well to be fighting at the last race. Can they do that this year, or can they find the advantage? Well, I suppose that's what we're here for.
What about Imola? That's a bit different.
Yes, Imola's changed. I mean, it's got 2 of the fast corners have been taken out in chicanes. But for me, the biggest difference are the cars. I mean, I've been sitting and listening to some of the teams in the pits and over the headsets, and the speed that they change the cars and the development that everything happens is so much more than in our day.
Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you so much.
And we're looking forward to hearing them both when qualifying starts in just under a quarter of an hour's time. Now, Jody Scheckter, one of an illustrious array of drivers, really, who benefited from the engineering brilliance of Harvey Postlethwaite. Harvey Postlethwaite died suddenly in Barcelona last month. He was there testing for the new projected Honda team. Here's Murray again with a tribute to his friend Harvey Postlethwaite.
Harvey Postlethwaite was one of Formula One's most admired and accomplished designers. He worked for several top teams, but first sprang to prominence at Hesketh, where he designed the car which gave James Hunt his first Formula One win. In 1976, Postlethwaite moved to the Wolf team with Jody Scheckter. The car was an instant success, winning on its debut in Argentina and here around the streets of Monaco.
It was a wonderful car. It really worked very well, especially in street circuits. He explained it so simply. I always felt he had such a good understanding of what was going on.
The lure of the big teams took Postlethwaite to Ferrari, where his passion for racing matched that of the Italian team. His cars won the most recent of Ferrari's constructors' titles in 1982 and 83. Ken Tyrrell had a long-standing partnership with Postlethwaite, one which produced outstanding cars, like the 1989 018 and the 019, in which Jean Alesi had an inspired battle against Ayrton Senna in the American Grand Prix at Phoenix. After brief spells back at Ferrari and then at Sauber, Postlethwaite returned to Tyrrell in 1993, becoming its managing director following the team's acquisition by BAR. Recently, Harvey Postlethwaite had been coordinating Honda's research program with his ex-Tyrrell engineers and driver Jos Verstappen. At 55 years of age, he is a very sad loss to life and to Formula One.
All right, well now let's take a look at the Imola circuit. It's been modified since the deaths of Roland Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna here 5 years ago. It's still essentially a power circuit. It's very hard indeed on the brakes. Let's call in championship leader Eddie Irvine. He's going to talk you around, and Eddie's been on the podium here for the last couple of years.
This is the start-finish. Try and get a really good exit here, because you'll hold the speed all the way down the straight. Up to 7th gear, braking at about 100 meters. Try and go in here very, very fast over that curve on the inside. 2nd, 3rd, 4th gear, into 5th, into 6th. And then here you just sort of brake and keep on the power at the same time to try and stabilize the rear. Down into 3rd, exit 4th, hitting the limiter just before braking for Tossa. Into 2nd gear, exit very, very tricky because traction is always a big problem here. Into 5th, up into 6th, coming over the brow of the hill, you can hear the engine revs picking up as the rear wheels go off the ground. Down into 4th gear of that corner, a lot of understeer in the exit normally. Again, braking and accelerating at the same time, keeping on the throttle to stabilize the rear. Into 3rd gear through there, and very bumpy on the exit, you can hear the wheels coming off the ground. In this corner, it's very important to keep up the speed and turn in very, very early to get a good exit. 3rd gear, 4th, 5th, into 7th. This is actually the fastest part of the circuit, braking downhill into a 2nd gear left-hander. Normally a lot of understeer there. Again, a lot of understeer here. This is 3rd gear into fourth gear, up into fifth, and obviously last corner you're really worried you're going to screw the whole lap up. Got to keep the minimum speed high, you got to ride the curbs. Exit isn't really as important the last lap of qualifying because very short exit, but that's the lap of Imola.
Hot stuff. We've all experienced high temperatures in the kitchen, but in fact this wok operates at just 220 degrees centigrade. I say just because the brakes on a Formula One car operate at 700 degrees centigrade, and here at Imola, it's one of the toughest circuits of the year on brakes. Everyone is using the 28mm carbon discs, the thickest and hardest of the year, and they certainly take a pounding here. Just look at the brake dust after 20 laps. There are 6 heavy stops at Imola, with a series of high-speed straights followed by tight chicanes. The biggest stop of the lap is the downhill Ravazza. The cars come over the crest of the hill at 185 miles an hour and need to get down to 75 miles an hour at the apex. The drivers say it's bumpy, off-camber and very easy to lock up. Another big stop is the Tamburella chicane, the first corner on the lap. Again, it's down from 185 miles an hour to 80 miles an hour. The drivers say it's a massive, sudden break. In testing last week in Jerez, teams tried many different braking solutions in preparation for this weekend, but it's still a concern for most teams.
There are a lot of straights and then followed by hard braking and then acceleration, straight and hard braking. So the braking temperature will be really high and will be really hard for disc and calipers.
I think the important thing is to produce a good lap time and good effort. Whether this comes from late braking or precise driving, I don't know.
Obviously it's going to be tough for us, like all the other teams, but we are prepared for it.
Well, I mean, I've never had a problem with the brakes this year, and I don't see why we should suddenly get a problem here. I mean, Melbourne is very similar and very hard for brakes, and we have our brake compound where we don't have any problems with, so that's no problem.
Well, no problems this morning for the McLarens. Mika Häkkinen quickest in the first session, but David Coulthard getting ahead of the Finnish world champion in the second and qualifying due off in just under 10 minutes time. Let's pop across and have a word with Louise Goodman now. Louise has been up and down the paddock getting the very latest news for you.
The death of Honda's technical director Harvey Postlethwaite has increased speculation that the Japanese company will scrap plans to run their own team next season and concentrate on engine supply instead. Jordan, currently using a Mugen Honda power plant, are the most likely contenders for a works Honda supply, but British American Racing is said to be in the frame too.
We've been having discussions with many engine manufacturers, and at the moment we are under contract with Supertech for the 2000 season. But I am going to endeavour to get a works engine deal as soon as humanly possible.
There's been speculation that Damon Hill is considering retirement, but he's not giving anything away.
The best thing is to read the papers and read between the lines and try and make your own conclusions. I've always said that I'm going to carry on racing as long as I'm competitive. That's really the bottom line for me. If I'm not competitive, I don't want to be in it because I don't want to get beaten.
Arrows were the only team not taking part in the first official Bridgestone tyre test, which took place in Jerez last week. But their 98 driver Mika Salo was there for one day's testing in the BAR. He's deputising for the injured Ricardo Zonta here in Imola.
I wouldn't mind to do a couple more days of testing, but I had one and it has to be enough now.
And finally, Luca Badoer is back in the Minardi. He missed the Brazilian race after breaking his hand in a testing shunt.
Well, there we are then. We're seeing these pictures, last moment instructions from Norbert Haug to David Coulthard. Let's have a word as we just see the back of Monsieur Villeneuve, who'll be wanting better things. In fact, that whole BAR, British American Racing team, will be as well, and another monster crowd here at Imola. Terrific attendance. OK, let's have a word with Johnny Herbert. He's had a rough old season so far. Could be more encouraging, though, after today. He's with James.
Well, Johnny, so far it's been Rubens that's been getting all the glory. Is this where you get a bit of glory yourself?
Well, I hope so. He's gone much better this morning. So that was good. It's taken me a bit of time. We've had so many damn problems. We had a load of problems yesterday in the afternoon, so I lost the whole afternoon session. And now we've had a good run today. It seems as if it's a lot better. So hopefully we can get both cars very close together up the front, and that would be good for everybody. But from my point of view, yes, I want to do it. I know I can do it, and it was good this morning. So it's a nice indication to go into qualifying feeling good.
David, this was a good race for you last year. Started from pole, won the event. What chance of a repeat this year?
Well, I think quite a good chance. Obviously, Depends very much on what happens in qualifying, grid position, and then the start, and then reliability thereafter. So there's a lot of things that take you between now and the checkered flag.
There's been very little between you and Mika this weekend. He was quickest yesterday, but you were quickest after the 2 sessions this morning. Is it going to take a perfect lap this afternoon to get the pole?
Yeah, I think that it's going to take a well-balanced car and a good drive to get the pole. Here you do rely a lot on the balance of the car because of the chicanes. It's bouncing off the curbs, and if the car's talking to you, it's quite easy to do the lap time. If it's not, then it becomes incredibly difficult.
So what's your car saying to you?
At the moment, it's whimpering a bit when I hit the curb, so I'm trying to calm it down.
I think the Jordans are whimpering. Both of them in the top 6 here. James with Eddie.
It's been all beer and skittles, Jim, for the Jordan team in the first 2 races. Podiums for Heinz Hauer-Frenz. But when are we going to get Damon up there? Is it going to be here?
Well, he was very quick yesterday. The weather has come up again, so we're going to probably run on the softer tyres, give it a chance and see how it works. I'm very confident Damon is in very high spirits, and just the first 2 races were one of those things no one could make any understanding as to why they happened, but he'll be fine. He's fantastic form at the moment.
Very briefly, a lot of rumours this weekend about the Honda Works engine supply. You and BAR both in the frame. Can you share anything with our viewers?
I think at this stage it'd be totally inappropriate for me to make any comment on that, James.
Oh, well, have a good afternoon anyway.
Thank you.
No comment from Eddie Jordan. Unusual that, but it's fair to say there's a bit of chat about the old engines over there, isn't there? Especially that Supertech.
Yeah, there has. They're meant to have the first of 4 revisions. You have to remember that this is actually a 1997 engine, and it's quite old, and they're definitely short of power, and they need more from the Supertech. They've got a few more horsepower, so says Zanardi, but they've still been blowing up a bit, especially in practice.
What are your thoughts on the session ahead of us, Tony?
I think it's going to be very, very hard indeed. It's hot. It's the guys, the difficulty of the brakes, but the guys are going over the curbs as well. You're going to see some very, very nervous cars on the light fuel loads. See a few spins, a few incidents, but I think McLaren should be at the top of the pile at the end of the session.
Okay, here we are then, all set for the qualifying session. Now just a few minutes away. Those of you who were with us, we've had a couple of very